Welcome to Kaleidoscope, and guess where we are? We are at Park Street Gourmet, checking out everything Valentine on this day of love. Oh, and we are giving a Valentine's hamper to a lucky couple this week as well, and that's on Kaleidoscope. The 14th of February was the day that the famous gangster Al Capone orchestrated the Valentine's Day massacre. Not quite love, eh? And another thing, the tomato was called the love apple because of its aphrodisiac properties. Of course, the best place to get your love apples and more is at Park Street Gourmet, as you can see, because after all, love makes the world go round. At Park Street Gourmet, where everything you want for your Valentine is just at your fingertips, guess what? Anyone who purchases more than 15,000 rupees worth of goods will win a hamper in the Valentine's raffle draw. And these hampers start at just 4,950 rupees. And speaking of Valentine hampers, you could win one from Park Street Gourmet on Kaleidoscope today. All you have to do is just let us know on any of our channels, that's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Do it quickly because the last date is the 12th of February. And that is this Sunday. A huge thank you to the partners on our show, Skills for Inclusive Growth and Australian Aid, Srilanka Life, CDB, the morning newspaper and of course Park Street Gourmet and Zip Zip. You really are the best. If you like Kaleidoscope, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
You can now start a CDB iDeposit digital fixed deposit and experience a range of special benefits from CDB.
A look at the week that was on CDB Snapshot. We begin with good news. The Paris Club will provide financing assurance to support the IMF's approval of the extended fund facility for Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's official reserves increased to over $2 million in January 2023. Government revenue in the first 11 months of 2022 is higher than expenditure, jumping by 220 billion rupees in November and crossing the 1.8 trillion rupee mark. Researchers discover a previously unknown layer of partially molten rock beneath the Earth's crust, 161 kilometers below the planet's surface. A German dog trainer earns a Guinness World Record with his team of talented canines, 14 of them performing a conga line.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome to Srilanka Life News Capsule. Printing new money is a controversial subject, and over the past 2 years, Sri Lanka has expanded its money supply by printing money with gay abandon. The idea that printing money leads to inflation was refuted by Dr. Howard Nicholas in one of our previous segments. Today, we hear a different view from Advocata's Senior Research Fellow, Roshan Pereira. Welcome, Roshan. There's been a lot of discussion about the reformation of the Monetary Law Act, which is one of the IMF conditions. What exactly does this mean?
So I think we have to go back and see what is the primary objective of a central bank, which is price stability. But to do that, they have to be able to conduct monetary policy without outside interference, and particularly from governments. And one of the main provisions of this new central bank law is basically it tries to restrain the central bank's financing of the budget deficit. But as I said, this requires autonomy of the central bank, particularly in terms of its operational independence. And in Sri Lanka, we have experienced in recent times, particularly, the consequences of this unrestrained financing of the budget deficit in terms of very high inflation, plus the collapse of the currency. However, greater autonomy also requires greater accountability and transparency. What we need is really greater scrutiny by the public and the parliament in terms of what the central bank does. And this is in relation to particularly the selection of the governor and the monetary board, the administration and the financial operations of the central bank. But most importantly, in terms of the policy implementation of the central bank to ensure that it satisfies or it achieves the objectives for which it has been established.
So you mentioned inflation. Now the renowned theory is that money printing causes inflation, which is what Sri Lanka has been experiencing. But then there's Dr. Howard Nicholas, who says that the two are not correlated. What's your take?
So this thinking is very much in line with modern monetary theory, or MMT as it's known, which claims that there is no significant relationship between money printing and inflation. However, even for those people who actually propose this or hold on to MMT, they qualify it and say that it relates to countries with a reserve currency like the US dollar, Japanese yen, or the sterling pound, which Sri Lanka it does not have. So the idea really of MMT is that the government can finance, its borrowing, almost unlimited, or its financing through borrowing and printing of money, and that it has no other easier for the government to use the central bank to finance its deficit. However, there are many examples of central banks that have resorted to this kind of financing of the government deficit by printing money, which has resulted in, has disastrous consequences of runaway inflation.
And now for a look at our markets. This week wasn't too good for the Colombo stock market, which fell to a 42-day low. And the fall continued at close of market on Thursday, with the All Share Price Index falling by 2% and the average daily turnover still failing to go above 2 billion rupees. WTI oil prices were steady at $78.50 per barrel, as fears that US crude stocks hitting their highest for months signaled a weakening demand for oil in the US. A stronger US dollar and higher US Treasury yields pushed gold to a one-month low of $1,878 per ounce. With healthcare being a top priority on the Srilanka Life CSR agenda, this undisputed leader in life insurance once again came to the aid of the Pediatric High Dependency Unit, which it gifted to the Jaffna Teaching Hospital in 2013. Srilanka Life presented new medical equipment to treat children with respiratory difficulties and dengue. At an investment of 2.1 million rupees, Srilanka Life donated Optiflow nasal oxygen therapy equipment and 2 infusion pumps, and will also continue to maintain the equipment. A Japanese DJ has a new career making flesh-like accessories inspired by horror movie special effects. His collection includes severed finger ink stamps, pendants with blinking eyes, and purses with mouths and stubbles. Talk about being in the flesh. At the Grammys last week, performers rocked the stage and music royalty rocked the red carpet with attitude and style to match their talent. They turned heads, dazzled, were glam cats and visions, and all in all, simply stunning. And don't forget, we've got this Valentine's hamper on offer from Park Street Gourmet. Simply write to us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. She was recognized by Queen Elizabeth II as the 211th Commonwealth Point of Light for her service to disadvantaged children, and she's a Global Goodwill Ambassador. She leads a team of 110 volunteers caring for over 2,000 children in a network of shelters across 8 districts in the country. Deborah Edirisinghe is the founder of Child Action Lanka and the Global Child Rights Ambassador Program, and she is currently the Asia Director for the UK-based Epiphany Trust. Among her many accolades is the Kirtisri Deshamani Award, the Women Leadership Award, and the Exceptional Woman of Excellence at the Women Economic Forum. Deborah, so what is the reality when it comes to abandoned and displaced children in Sri Lanka? How has the economic crisis impacted them?
I think the biggest challenge we're facing right now is when families are actually forced for economic gain to have to leave their children and go overseas. This is a stronger form of abandonment that we're seeing these days.
So one thing different about Child Action Lanka is that it strives to keep children within their families. But what happens if those families are economically disadvantaged, finding it difficult to keep their children with them, or, this is the second point, they are abusive?
I think the part of where they find it difficult to keep is something that we come shoulder to shoulder with families to support them by providing children with free education, healthcare, nutrition, with helping them with other issues of guidance and whatever support they need. So like come the beginning of the school year, we provide them all the school equipment, uniforms, everything. So parents don't need to worry about those things. When it comes to food, we're able to provide them with daily meals and sometimes even a packed meal to take back with them. Now, when it comes to the whole child protection thing, that's the tricky one, because yes, it's unsafe, and yes, the ideal situation would be, I suppose, remove the child from that family. But on the other hand, no one else can be a mom to that child, no one else can be family to that child. And though we try to keep them with us and feel like separating them, keeping them in a safer space, give them one chance, and the first thing they do is they run to mom, right? So I think in those situations it's about trying to support, maybe if it's the woman who needs support to take care of her children, how can we support her versus what she's going through. Is there anything we can do on our side? Can we maybe help in practical ways by providing a separate form of shelter, which is also something we do by giving them a refuge and a shelter if they're going through domestic violence or something like that. So I think it's a case by case situation.
So how do we as citizens identify children who have been abused, children who are hungry, for instance? What can we do?
I think children don't keep silent, and children are always showing us signs, and that's one of the things I love about children, because they don't pretend. Unlike as adults, we grow on to pretend, but kids, they're constantly showing us signs, and as a community, as society, our responsibility is to keep our eyes open. Children sometimes they display signs of abuse. They show, sometimes we label them as a naughty child. We label them as a very disturbed child, not realizing why they might have gone into that. So it's often keeping our eyes open. Sometimes they say certain things. They say little things here and there that give us a bit of a clue. When they're hungry, they make it very obvious. So I think as society, our responsibility is probably to keep our eyes and ears open, pay a little more attention to the little human beings around us, probably very helpful, and something that we often ignore.
So you started Child Action Lanka in a very small way, actually cooking meals in your kitchen at home. Now, you've taken Child Action Lanka far. Where is it going now?
From those days when we started with 8 kids, we've gone up to nearly 2,000 children now. We work in 8 different districts. We are about to start up 2 more new. And I think it's been, every center has had its own story. It was not one of those organizations we planned to, grow and make a huge organization of. But every step has been a story. And it's gone from place to place, from center to center, from district to district, and we're up in the north, south, east, west now, and we're looking at opening more centers in the future.
That was Deborah Edirisinghe, who is the founder of Child Action Lanka, a network of shelters for disadvantaged children across 8 districts in the country. Cupid is just about to shoot his arrow. Romance is in the air after all. Park Street Gourmet will customize a love-filled hamper just for you this Valentine's Day. Park Street Gourmet, hampers for eternal love. Art in any form is eternal, and we love a good art fair. After a 2-year hiatus, the much loved and largest street fair in Sri Lanka, Pola, is back in all its hues, shapes and sizes. Organised by the George Keith Foundation and John Keel's Holdings, today on Park Street Gourmet Life in 60, we have Kamali Jayasuriya, the head of CSR of JKH, to tell us what's special about Pola.
If you take artists, the opportunity for them to showcase art in this large, vast marketplace, drawing over 30,000 visitors, is enormous. And whether you're an emerging artist or a senior artist, there are many opportunities for you to interact with art lovers, share your thoughts, develop a network, and possibly commissions for the future. The performing artists who will also be there, the dancers, the drummers, local talent of various kinds, who will be there to entertain you.
And don't forget, it's Valentine's Day and time to give your loved one a hamper from Park Street Gourmet. We'll see you next week.